You're listening to Dumpster Diving with
Janice,
and Jane. You needed to do like a little hand. Like I think that this is like,
you know what? You're not the boss of me. Okay?
how
Okay?
cute is this?
It is very cute. Very cute. I don't know that I could pull it off the way you can.
Well,
So
I did touch up my hair, so I'm
it
extra
looks
like
lovely.
blondie,
Yeah.
and I have bobby pins pinning back my
Right? Because it's long enough now on the side to start to pin down a little bit. It's getting
yep.
there.
The
Looking
curls, the
cute.
curls are crazy. The curls are crazy. And so I have to like when they're wet, I got to smooth them down. And then just now,
Right.
like this is my hairstyle from yesterday. I wore my bonnet last night,
It's
so it's good.
lovely.
Thank you. But yeah, I have a couple bobby pins because it's dry and it's like poof.
You know what? I think that you should take one for the team and let our listeners slash viewers, because we're talking about YouTube, see. But that's okay. Next time.
Oh,
Maybe.
oh, I already have a plan. So the other night I was on with my friend Kyle, who,
Yeah.
our listeners know and stuff like that. So I don't know. I had my hair down, but then I put it up and the sides were super curly and I looked like I was wearing a powdered wig. We were dying, dying. We were laughing so hard. I'm
That's a look.
crying. I'm crying. And he was like, I look like the Quaker Oats man. Like I can't with this right now. Cause so
And not in a good way.
and I had just lightened it. So it was like super cotton
Oh
ball, like
my
Q-tip, but the
gosh.
curls were a perfect powder wig. And then with the
Oh,
hair that's long, I was like, I could even have a ponytail. And so he really wanted me to show up to our next recording looking like I was wearing a powdered wig.
yeah.
I was like, okay, look,
You know
as
what? I
funny as
like how he thinks.
this is a private moment for us because I will not be showing up. I go, you and I have known each other for like 15 years. You have seen me at my worst and seen me at my best. You can see me looking like I'm wearing a powdered wig. No one else will see me looking like I'm wearing a powdered wig
You know
ever.
what?
It was
I mean,
crazy.
technically, we've only been each other's lives a few years, but we are officially sisters.
We are
And I
blood.
think that Kyle should get something that I don't get. So yeah.
Well, I'll send you the picture privately
Okay.
because I did
Okay.
take a screenshot
Okay.
as I was like dying. But
But
anyway,
you know what? That's actually a great segue because today we're really just kind of catching up. We've said some things in our last episode that we would just want to follow up on because we're trying really hard to like help model for other people, right? What we say we do. And so I wasn't going to talk about this, but you just said, some things are for private moments, right? So our pup Cora passed away this week, as you know. You and I talked about this earlier,
baby.
and it was, devastating and grueling, and the end was not pretty for her. And yet we, there were a couple of moments where I could like take a picture of her, like when she had like a moment of peace, and it ties to the fact that I'm going to do an update on being off of social media for the last 2 weeks, and it made me think about like so how much we post on social media things that in the past would have been considered private moments, right? And this is not a diss, right? Like everybody should do what feels right to them, right? But people post about their pets passing away all the time, and I understand that it's like a way to honor, etc. But it made me realize like there sometimes people post about that stuff and they post pictures, right, of like the last moment when they're with their pup or with their and I just, for me, like, as we were going through all that, A, it didn't even cross my mind because I was already off of social media for a while.
Right, right.
And B, I didn't want pictures of those moments. Like, for me, it was like those were out. Like, sometimes I feel like it's okay for it to be a mental picture and not an actual picture. And again, I think being off of social media has kind of got me thinking about that. But when is a mental picture more meaningful than an actual picture? And so I was glad that I like for me it was like, okay, yeah, I some things are meant to be private moments. And again, we have to all decide those for ourselves. I'm not saying and this should be one. I'm saying each of us has to decide that for ourselves, right? There's not a right or wrong. But for me, that was like one of those like this is a private moment that will only be held by us and our memories and that's okay. Because there was a second where I was like, when I go back on social media, should I post about it? And then I was like, no, like that's just
No.
for us. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's what you
No,
made me
I
think.
agree. And I'm very proud of you for that because, in the past, I have posted little things about that,
Great.
and stuff like that. But I think about it this way too, and this just kind of popped up in my head because our brother Jason, his passing was just the anniversary of his passing was on the 21st.
Okay.
I usually do like a big post for
Yeah.
him, about him,
Yeah.
and that's more in like memorial,
Yeah.
and there's tons of
Yeah.
people that knew him and that are
Absolutely.
friends with me on Facebook and stuff like that. But I think like the death of an animal in a home, like yes, it's sad, and everybody who has a pet that loves their pets
Of
understands it
course.
and are empathetic and everything else. But I think you're right. Like that's something that I don't want to get condolences on social media about my pet that slept in my bed with me,
Yeah.
or like that is so personal and just, yeah, like I agree. Like I think that certain things shouldn't be put on social media. And it's so funny that we're on this trail because I just watched the Ruby Frankie Hulu
Yeah. I haven't
documentary, the
watched it
new
yet, but
one.
yeah.
So I've seen like like
Yeah.
they've redone this story like a billion times, but this is from the husband and the kid's point of view.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Ooh. And we
Wow.
know their point of view from some of the other things, but what they go into is the actual like climate of the inside the family of when all of this was going on, and they talk about their private moments and everything being filmed. She always had the camera on them, and it was talking like the kids were confessing about how they were uncomfortable, the older kids, and they started having behavioral problems because of it. But the mom was just, Ruby was just so like, this is everything, this is everything. And
Yep.
so even that, like, we really have to, like, I feel like we need to scale back on how much we are putting out there and really make it for, keep those private moments private, because
Yes.
that's what family is for. That's what privacy is for. That's what all of those things. And we are so eager and used to now blasting our personal business
Yep.
on the interwebs, and there's some, I like the privacy.
Yeah.
I like it. I
And we
like it.
all have to, again, we all have to kind of discern that. And actually, now that
Yeah.
you brought that story into this, I think that the consideration is like, has your family had a conversation about
Right.
what are going to be the guardrails, right?
What are
And
the
can we all agree
boundaries?
to them, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the story you're talking about, it's the mom who's the one who made the decision for everybody that all of their
Everybody.
lives, everything will be. But in some cases, it's your teenager, right? Who's like taking pictures or videos in moments where you're like, so I wonder about, right? Like as a family, if from a parenting perspective, if one of the kind of, evolutions of the role of the, like you said, the interwebs and social media, et cetera, in our lives, isn't that any of it's bad, but that it's another layer of where we have to have candid conversations and come to some consensus, right? Like early
Right.
on, before, right when Facebook was really like the only social media platform, the Montanans said I'll speak for them because they were, the ones I was with most of the time back then. I remember for them, it was like, do not post a picture of me that I have not had a chance to see. And at first I remember being like, whatever.
Whatever.
Then I was like, no, of course. Like, of course, right? Like, how is posting a picture of you as my kid any different than inviting somebody into your space? Like, of course, you should
Right.
have a say in that. It shouldn't
Right.
be something that's now as they've gotten older as adults. There was a period where I can admit to being like, okay, now you have Instagram and you have Snapchat and you have all those things.
Like, screw
I
you.
will agree to that there, but Facebook is mine. Like I can post
Right.
whatever I want.
Right.
And on one hand, they didn't care because nobody they care
No,
about is
only
on
old
Facebook.
people are on
But
Facebook.
but
Yeah.
then I kind of quickly came back around and was like, same thing. Like even though they're not, they're on it, but
Right.
even though like if you're gonna post a picture of somebody else, again, it's equivalent to inviting the world into their space. Of course they should be able to say yes or no, don't post that picture. And I think generally speaking, we don't think about that. We just automatically assume like everybody knows that social media is a thing. And if we take pictures, everybody knows they can be posted. I almost feel like we've gone so far to the extreme of everything goes, right? And so,
Right.
yeah, I think, there's something to be said. And again, it's on my mind because of what we went through this week. There's just something to be said for, um, mental, even like I said, taking pictures of it and or posting it, but that
Right.
mental memories sometimes are the best memories, right? It just, and
Right.
again, everybody has to figure their thing out, right? But that was mine. That was the discovery I had this week, and I was grateful to have been off social media because otherwise I probably would have automatically, like without even thinking about it, I automatically would have done it. So anyway,
Well, let's talk about how your week of no social media went.
2 weeks. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
that's right, 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay, so I'm gonna go back really quickly. So I'm in my phone right now for those of you who are listening, right? And I'm going back to when I was like, okay, I'm taking a break. Like it was very impromptu. I decided it in the moment on our call. And so I'm going back to like I think everybody knows this, but in your phone, you can it keeps track for you, right? Of like day to day, how much time you spent with your phone in your hand, basically, right? We that's the equivalent of screen time. And then it breaks that down, and by app, it will tell you how much time you spent on each app. This stuff's not a mystery. You don't have to guess at it. It is there in your phone, right? Which is also a great reminder for parents. It will tell you how many times you picked up your phone that day.
Ah,
I did not know any of this until I
no,
did this,
I don't
right?
want to know that. I don't
How
want to
many
know
times you
that.
picked up, and it will tell you how many notifications you got that day,
Oh dear
right?
God.
So, and again, where they were from. So, one of the things that I immediately understood, of course, all my numbers went down, right? All my
Of
numbers went
course.
down because I
Yep,
decided not to be on social media. I did realize, by the way, all I had to do was turn off notifications, right?
exactly. That's what we
I
talked
was
about. Yeah.
worried. Yeah, part of me thought maybe I need to delete the apps. Like, am I actually going to be able to like control myself? I was really
I
pleasantly
had faith in
surprised.
you because that was my suggestion. Just turn off the notifications because I'm
Yeah,
like, don't go through all that bullshit
you
to
were
block
right.
yourself completely. Like, see if
Yeah.
you have that self control, and if you
And
don't, then
I did.
you
I
know,
did. I
woo!
think there was one point, there was only one time that I picked up my phone. And so the thing is, like when you, if you have an iPhone especially, you pick it up and you go to search something, all the things you usually search for pop up first. So of course,
Yes.
Instagram, TikTok, all the things show up there. And there was one time where I literally, through muscle memory, clicked on the TikTok icon. And then it was like my phone was on fire because I was like, oh crap. Like I was like fumbling with my
In
phone.
trouble. I'm in trouble. They're like, you're back. I'm like, no, no, I'm not.
Don't count it, don't count it, like on my analytics. So I here's what I'll tell you. Before I turned off notifications, I had like 400 plus notifications a day.
Holy shit.
No the fuck wonder we pick up our phones all the time.
I'm telling you.
No wonder.
That's why I
So
turn off my notifications.
just turning them off, it dropped it to like 200 and below. So the things I'm getting notification for right now are my calendar, and I have a million things on my
Perfect.
calendar, so no wonder. I get, of course, notifications for text messages, and I get notifications for LinkedIn because it's the one platform that I'm
Right.
continuing to be on for professional purposes. So basically, that's, and obviously, if you get a call, whatever, those are the notifications that are coming through. And even with just those, my calendar, especially, right? Because I have my work calendar, my shared calendar with Joe. Like I have multiple
It's
calendars.
probably
Like
going off every 15 minutes.
exactly.
You
I could
know? Yeah.
probably go in there, and in fact, that would be my next step is to go in and on all but my is like to go in and I don't know, turn off some notifications, but it's like your calendar's a reminder. I don't know. I'll figure that out. But my point in that is that, so obviously my number of notifications went down, and as a result, the amount of pickups of my phone went down,
Right.
and as a result, the amount of time that I spent on my phone went down. And again, it's deceiving because like yesterday, right? No, hold on, that was last week. Let me go back to let's give me a second, everybody. Give me a second. I'm just going back
She's the
to
older sister. Don't forget.
I know, I'm just
Now
trying to remind myself
that
how
she's
the
been
hell
off
do
her
I
phone for 2 weeks, she can't figure out how
I
to use it
can't stand.
anymore.
Oh, and then it gives you. I don't know how to use it. Then it gives you, of course, the week's average, and it tells you like I'm down. I think it says 30. It said 23% the first time and 33%. So I'm down in terms of the amount of time I spend with it in my phone, which is or in my hand, which is great. Oh, my Kindle app is another one, by the way. Like so, because I look at it and I'm like,
Reading
how am I
on
still
that
spending?
bitch. Like you're
Right.
not, yeah, you're reading books and
How
stuff,
am I
right?
still spending so much time on it? And it's because I'm reading books. Like yesterday, the last 2 days, I was facilitating learning for my job, and I use my phone with my presentation on it for my notes. So of course, I'm walking around with it all day, right? So you have to
Yeah,
look beyond the amount of screen time. It's really the details behind that
right.
math. Um, so where I'm at right now is A, celebrating the small win that for 2 weeks, I have been off those platforms. Um, and B, I've already decided I think I'm just going to stay off for a while. Like I'm not going to commit to a time frame. I'm just going to not go back on right now. And I think the big epiphany I came to was, you know, I I need to decide what my purpose is being on them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, I'm definitely one of millions and billions of people who are like, how can I monetize this, right? Is there something I
Right,
can do to, right? But I am not at a place where I have dedicated the time for that. And notice I'm not saying I don't have time because we all have the exact same amount of time in a day and there are people who do it. So, but I'm not in a place where I'm making time for that.
right,
So I need to, in my mind, like for my own kind of wellness, right? Just stop chasing it until I have a plan. If I ever decide to do that, right? So until I have a plan.
right.
Um, so there's that. Yes, I have one of my things in the past that I've always said is like, yes, and this is particular to Facebook because that's where I really know people. Like a lot of the people on Instagram, TikTok, I don't know them, right? So Facebook is my family and friends for the most part. And I often will say, gosh, it's so what I love about it is like if I haven't seen Jane for 2 years and we run into each other, it's we're caught up on each other's lives. We don't have to go through the whole thing. We just kind of talk about. And so the epiphany I've had this couple of weeks is like, or isn't it kind of beautiful to have to catch up on each other's lives?
Right. And that's
Right?
what we don't. I mean, I honestly, and sorry that I'm jumping in here, but like
No, do it, please.
we forgot how to communicate with each other and have those conversations and be able to be vulnerable with each other and all those things. Social media has taken away the vulnerability of life
Yeah.
because all you need to do is post all the great things that you're doing or just post a bunch of still silly stuff that
Yeah.
makes people laugh or whatever, which I do.
Yeah.
Like I don't post a lot, but I
Right.
will share on my story motivational and all
Right.
of those things. People know that I'm a very positive person anyway. And so they're always like, thank you, and blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. And I'm doing that's just me sharing love in
Yeah.
a digital way because I know most of my people are on there.
Yep.
Because let's be honest, like I am a talker. I like to communicate with people. I like to talk on the phone or on FaceTime or whatever. Not everybody's like that.
Right.
And we have to find the way to communicate with those individuals to where they will reach out or answer the phone or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. Because I have very good friends that I haven't talked to in years because
Yeah.
they don't like to talk on the phone,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so it's like we share text messages and stuff like
Yeah.
that and whatever. And they have their own shit going on,
Well,
right?
and I think that like I would tweak it for me. My experience is I don't necessarily think that we and I don't I'm not suggesting you meant it this way. Forgotten how to communicate with each other. I think that we forget about the power of real time communication
And that's kind of what I'm
because we
saying.
feel
Yeah.
like we have so much
Yeah.
information, right? And because I'm somebody who I'm never going to point to social media and say it's responsible for whatever negative thing in the world, right?
No, no.
I think that it's a part of a larger picture of things, of the way our world has evolved. But I really appreciate that there's something about real time communication as well. And it's easy to be like, to your point, well, I haven't talked to Jane in a couple of years, but it's no big deal because I see her all the time on social media, working at,
He's
we'd
doing
send each other
fine.
messages, which, and again, that's great because back when we only had telephones, right? Like you would go years without maybe seeing or talking to somebody because you don't have time in the day to like keep up with
Right.
everybody via telephone. So it definitely, in my mind, it can fill gaps. It's when, for me, in my experience, when you realize that it's become your primary way of communicating.
Right.
I
Right.
think for me that's the epiphany I've had for the last 2 weeks is like, well, I don't want that to be the
Exactly.
primary way, right?
Right.
So yeah, so I feel like for now, there has also been there's no question that I've been more productive on other fronts. There have been lots of times when like I said, I would the muscle memory of going and like, oh, I'm gonna pick up my phone because no notifications are there. It has kept me from going to those. There's no question that if you want a shift in the amount of time you spend on social media, like you said, Jane, turn off the notifications. Even if you
Turn
pick
off.
a platform, maybe you take turns and you say,
That's
this week
it.
I'm gonna turn off TikTok. Next week I'm
Yeah.
gonna turn off Instagram.
That's it.
Because that, when I pick up my phone and it's not there, I don't click on it. Here's the other thing I don't experience. I don't experience FOMO. I don't experience, like, if you see the
Right.
notification, you think, oh, I need to go see what's going on in the world. When you don't see the
You have
you
no
don't
idea.
feel compelled to do that, and you're not missing out on anything because you don't. know what's happening, right? Like
Right.
in terms of people's social stuff. So that has all been a big like relief, right? A relief on my brain. There are more times where I am turning to just the book that I'm reading versus, especially in like, think of all the times where you just scroll. You scroll when you're waiting for stuff, right? I'm waiting for
Totally.
the laundry to be done. I'm waiting for my doctor's appointment. I'm waiting in the checkout line at the grocery store. You scroll when you're waiting for stuff. So when you don't scroll, it's like you're paying attention to the world around you more, right?
Yes.
You're literally more aware of the world around
But
you because of it. Those are some of the
and the
reflections,
world around you is so intriguing. There's so
right?
many things. And then you might want to grab your phone to take a picture because you saw
Exactly.
something. You're like, holy crap, this has to be documented.
Yeah.
But then you only text it to your friends, right?
Right.
Instead of putting it on social media. Because
Exactly.
then how many times do we take pictures of strangers and then put it on our social media like, oh, look at this guy, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Seriously?
All the facial recognition out there, right? Like there's going to
That
come a time
too.
in the not near or in the not far future where any of us is going to be able to, and I'm sure some people can do it right now, but can go query the all the interwebs, right? For any image of themselves, and they're going to be able to find those pictures that
Totally.
you think are harmless because you don't know this person, they'll never see it. And I will say that I've always, I have never posted a picture of someone else on social media that I don't know who I'm making fun of. I've never done that. I would never do that.
Right.
But to your point, if I'm like recently I had made a post about like getting on a plane on a Southwest flight and like the joke was like everybody here's jockeying for a seat and I'm obsessed with this woman's jeans and I'm trying to figure out if I could pull it off, right? That look like that. And so, but even in that, it wasn't that I took a picture of her face. It was literally her legs and her jeans.
Right. You're like, these are awesome. I'm doing
Right.
this.
Right. So,
Yeah,
but even that, right, to your point, like we all contribute to the lack of privacy that we have, right? That's it.
totally.
We all contribute to the lack of privacy that we have. And the other thing I will say really quickly that just reminded me of is the number of times I have gone to take a picture or do a video because I think about, oh my gosh, this would make great B reel for something. Oh, this
Right.
would be a great, like the number of times, like it's like constantly seeing your life in post. I was doing that
Right.
and that's starting to diminish a little bit. And I think for me, that's healthy, right?
Right.
I think if your job is to make money on social media, of
That's
course that's how
fine.
you have to see your world. You have
Yeah.
to see literally you have to see the world in post.
But at some
But that's
point,
not what I'm doing. So I need to
right.
stop. Yeah,
Right. But at some point too, like even they need a break from it. I
absolutely.
mean, hello, Ruby Frankie. Like I
Right.
just,
That there's a
whatever.
part of
But
your brain constantly thinking about that means that you are using energy, whether you're conscious of it or not, constantly like that. And that
right.
could be, I'm no scientist, I'm no researcher, this is not based on fact, but it makes me wonder, could that be contributing to people's struggles, right?
I
Whether it's a
guarantee it
mental,
is.
well, and again, I'm not somebody who advocates that social media is the thing that's causing higher rates of depression. I will not advocate for that, but I am saying that some of the behaviors we are developing over time, consciously or unconsciously, could be
Yeah.
right as they're related. So anyway,
Well, I've been doing the same thing
yeah,
a little bit. Like I mean, I'm not completely cold turkey on the
yeah,
social media. There are some things that I go and look for because they're my like little daily mantras and stuff like
yeah,
that. So, I'll and we were talking about this earlier, like I'll go on social media and spend about 5 minutes.
yeah,
And especially in the first thing in the morning, because there's a couple of ones that I always repost,
yep,
and they're always at the top of my thing. As soon as I open it,
yep,
boom, there's my top five or
yep,
whatever. And then I post them. And then I'll scroll through to like some of my comedians and see if they have something new,
yeah, yeah,
because I love to laugh,
yep.
and that's kind of my medicine is laughter. So I always look for my favorite comedians. And, if you guys have not watched Josh Johnson, you have to. He's hilarious. Um, I'll do
Is he the
that.
one you sent me this morning, the teacher?
Oh my God, that guy's hilarious.
He was
Like,
very funny. Yeah,
yeah,
that
no,
was
he was
funny.
in my feed this morning and I was like, I
Yeah.
love him. He does they do this little segment called oh God, what is it? Kids things kids say to a white teacher in a black school and a black teacher in a white school. And it's a two
Oh,
teachers, male teachers.
okay, yep. I've seen
They're
that before.
hilarious.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they're hilarious. So I was cracking up and they came up on my feed this morning and I was like, oh my God, I gotta send this to Janice. He's
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
So I crept you into Instagram this morning and I'm
Did
sorry.
you did? That's okay. When people, because there's a thing like. I have other people. We all do. We all have people that we regularly send stuff to. They send it to us, etc. Most people send it to me on those platforms, so I'm not seeing it, right? But I do
Right.
have a few like you who send me, and if I don't, for me, like that doesn't count. If somebody sends me a video and a
Right.
text,
Yeah. And I
I
know
go
that
look
you're
at
going to like it. There's a purpose
it.
behind it,
Exactly.
and it was a really
Exactly.
funny teacher stand-up
Yeah.
comedy thing, and you're a teacher, so blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. So
Very,
anyway,
very funny. Yes. Very,
yeah, very
a little bit stereotypical, but but it was hilarious that like
nailed that
somebody in the
guy.
audience, he
He
nailed
nailed
it.
that guy in the audience.
He nailed it. It was very
That was
funny.
hilarious. So,
Um,
anyways, but so the little things, but here are some of my takeaways
let's
from
hear it.
between the last time we talked
Yep.
and today.
Yep.
Um, I have discovered new things that I like doing
Okay.
instead of just sitting there and scrolling.
Yep.
And mind you, like I didn't spend hours and hours scrolling, but the time that I did spend scrolling, I'm like, I could be doing something about it. Like this is stupid, and like like you were explaining earlier, like the amount of times we have our phone in our hands and then we're doing stuff while we're doing stuff.
Yeah.
I've stopped that. Like I'll leave my phone in the other room, and just I
Yep.
have the ringer up in case it rings.
Yeah.
um but I also have like so much going on in my world that's different and changing
Of
and stuff like
course.
that, and so I'm really trying to trim the fat on
Yeah.
some stuff, like
Mhm.
purging and getting rid of
Yes.
stuff. I'm moving, and I'm like really getting rid of shit, like
Yeah.
really getting rid of shit, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel like this weight that's been on me is, and it's, I mean, it's a mental aspect, but it's also a physical aspect. I have been storing my brothers, my exes, my friends stuff in my garage, like just their crap, and I'm like, I haven't taken care of this, and I got rid of a bunch of stuff that other people have given me that I really didn't want. Like I was
Yeah.
like, I didn't ask for this. And
Yeah.
so that shit's all leaving, and it feels so good. Oh, it feels so good. And the
What a
storage is
mental
going to be,
weight.
yeah, yeah, like we're keeping what we need and what we use and what we want.
Yeah.
Everything else is leaving.
Yep.
Everything else is leaving, and so getting rid of shit, it just feels so good. But
Mm.
um one of the things that I noticed is that I'm sleeping better.
Oh,
I have insomnia like a mofo. Like
wow.
it's been really, 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 really bad lately.
Yep.
In the last week, I wake up maybe once or twice a night versus
Wow.
once an hour.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So my sleep has improved, and now I'm like, because a couple weeks ago I wasn't getting out of bed until like 10, like because I had not slept all night.
Yep.
And then I would wake up at 4, and then wake up at 6, and then wake up at 7, and then wake up at 10. And I was like,
Oh,
oh my God, like
that's horrible.
I've been able to sleep. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? Like that scrolling at the end of the night when, you're just sitting in bed, it stays
Nope.
in your brain. It keeps you up. I've been having dreams now that I actually remember.
Wow.
Like it's weird. It's weird. So I'm all about it. I'm all about
Yeah.
the mind numbing scrolling is out,
And be intentional, right? What I hear you saying is like, again, it doesn't have to be cold turkey. And I like how you just put that, Jane, like the mind numbing scrolling, right? If you're
Yeah.
being intentional, um, and you're saying, okay, I'm going to go catch up on whatever, I'm going to spend 30 minutes, I'm going to be whatever, that's one thing. But we know this already. There are researchers who studied this. You and I are not the experts, but we
No.
know the research
And we
says
have the experience too.
we have the experience that scrolling at before you go to sleep is going to disturb your sleep. We know that. And yet, because it's so accessible and you're laying there and you can't get to sleep, and God forbid we just lie there, right? You and I can't remember if we talked about it on here or different, but I think I remember sharing with you a tactic that I heard that actually works quite well for me to avoid the phone to help to get to sleep. But yeah, that's the stuff that, like you said, like even though eventually your brain is going to shut off and you're going to fall asleep, it's not quieted, right? Because
No,
it has all that stuff in your
floating
head. And
around.
you're at that. I don't know about anybody else, but I know for me, like if it's 11 o'clock at night, I'll send if I find something funny, I'll send it to somebody on Instagram. And
Yeah.
what I'm not thinking about is if it's whether it's 11 o'clock their time or they're my East Coast family and it's 1 a.m. their time, that notification is going to pop up on their phone.
Yeah.
So I am in fact disturbing them, even though it feels like, oh, I'm just sending this, they'll see it when they see it. No, it's going to pop up on their phone. And depending on how their phone settings are set up, at the very least, their screen's going to light up. So
Yep.
now you've created a possibility that that screen lighting up is going to wake them up.
Disturbing. Yeah.
So it's like it's just reminding ourselves, I think, of all that stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like, because it's easy to just and again, I'm going to go back to your language. It's easy to forget the impact of that mind-numbing scrolling. And we miss, and again, this isn't revolutionary. We know this. We miss so much of what's happening around us.
Right.
Because of it. So anyway, and the other thing it has, I've so like, okay, so how do I fill that time? Right. So like I said, I've been turning more to books, right? Like the books that I read, I have 27,000 books stacked around me right now that need to be read. And by that, I mean, I got them because I'm interested in them. I want to read them. So spending more time on that and spending more time on podcasts.
Yeah.
I suggest everybody do, especially ours. And you know what happens with a podcast, depending on what you're listening to, is like it's an in-depth experience, right? Versus the just scrolling here a minute this, minute that, minute the other, right? It kind of forces you to say, I'm interested in this topic. I'm going to listen to this thing. Kind of like you watching the documentary, right? And
Yeah.
I'm freaking going to probably watch that today. But
Yeah.
um,
Go watch it. It's good.
so I have, lots of takeaways from podcasts and what I love about that is like in real time, right? I can say to somebody else, oh my gosh, I just heard this thing, right? And it's so interesting or what have you. So anyway, but yeah, and I know we're going to talk about that too, because I have a couple of things that I heard this week that I'm like, oh my gosh, I think this is like such a great thing for people just to think about. So anyway,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Well, one of the other things that I've been doing is we're going through a transition in our home right now,
yep.
transitional time. And
Mhm.
I had the epiphany the other day. And as moms or as parents, whatever side of the coin you're on, moms or dads, parents, whatever, guardians, I think we forget that our kids grow up, and like and we just don't think about them growing up. We just,
Yeah.
like la 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 la. And through this, all the transitions that are going on in our home, my daughter Chase and I were talking. She's 19, and we were having a little conversation, and it dawned on me she could move out whenever she wants.
Yep.
It like I don't. She's such a mama's girl and
Yeah.
just loves being around me and her sister and stuff like that. Like she has her friends, she does all her stuff, but it like dawned on me, and I'm like, holy shit. Like if she wanted to, and she has a little boyfriend
Yeah.
and doing really well and all the things, and they're super cute together, and they're making plans for opening a business together, and like, I mean, she's 19,
Wow.
but I'm like, hey. And so it dawned on me, and I'm like, how do I bring this up to her without making her think that I'm trying to kick her out?
Okay.
And so I had to like really think about it, because she's very sensitive with those things. I can't even mention me dying without her
Oh
bawling.
God.
Like it's
No, of course not.
like don't ever. If one time we were driving down the road, and I was like, well, what would you do if I died? Mom, don't
Oh,
say that. And tears
right.
just start. She's like, what are you
Wow,
trying
way
to
to
do to me?
traumatize your daughter. Good Lord.
I
And
was
mentally, like, behind the scenes, you were like, good. I was just checking to make sure you love me. All right.
don't ever fuck it up. No, oh my God. So I can't even talk to this girl about this. And
Yeah.
even now, in 19 years, she's just like, oh, don't say that, And but it made me realize like she could move out whenever she wants.
Yeah.
And if things are going really well with her boyfriend and they're making all these plans and stuff, like it's gonna happen. So
Right.
I was like, okay, I gotta talk to her about this. So the next day she comes home and she's, from school or whatever. And I was like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. She's like, what? I go, just know that I have a disclaimer. I said, know that I'm not saying this because I want you to leave.
Right.
Okay. So I'm just going to say that. And she's like, okay. And I'm like, I realized yesterday that you're 19 and you can move out whenever the fuck you want. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, so, the situation that we're in, stuff like that, I could really look for a 2-bedroom instead of a 3-bedroom. And I was like, I'm not saying this because I want you to leave, but I'm saying this because I need to know what you want to do and what your plan.
Ah, right. Like, don't let me kill myself trying to find a 3 bedroom only for
Right.
from now
Right.
for you
And
to
I
be
was
like,
like,
I'm
so
out.
so I'm not saying this because I want you out, but I'm saying
Right.
this to be realistic and understand what my options are.
Right.
I said, because you're never home anymore. I mean, you are, but you aren't. And I said, and you're making all these plans with your boyfriend. And I was like, and if you want to move out, I said, and the other thing is that I want you to know is that I don't want you to feel obligated to stay here because you feel like I need you here.
Oh, yeah.
I said, because I'm a big girl and I can take care of myself. Because she's very protective over me. And she was
Yeah.
like, I know. And I was like, so I just need you to understand that if you want to, don't feel obligated that you must stay here. I
Right.
want you to do what you want to do.
Right.
And I said, so I'm not trying to push you out, but I'm just letting you know, like, we're good. So
Right.
whatever you decide you want to do, just communicate with me because
Right.
I could be looking for a smaller place, you know.
Right.
And she was really cute because she was like, well, I know that you talked about getting a second, you know, a 2 bedroom place possibly. So she was like, and I know you said you would sleep in the living room and we could sleep in the bedrooms. She
Yeah.
goes, but I'll sleep in the living room because I'm never home, you know, whatever. And she's like, and that's fine with me. And I was like, okay, all right. So it was just like this epiphany that, oh my God, like my baby is like a grown up now, you
That's
know,
right.
and she's doing so well. She's doing awesome. And so yeah, it was just like a proud mom moment, but also
Yeah.
like, wait a minute,
It sneaks
where have
up
I
on you,
been?
right?
Huh?
It sneaks up on you. And, she's
Yeah,
gonna, I'm assuming this spring she's gonna have an AA. She's gonna be deciding what she wants to do for the
right,
next step and all that stuff. And she could decide to go to college and it ends up being someplace and and so same idea, right? Even if she's living in a dorm or
right,
what have you. So yeah, I mean, she's got every option out there. And I think, at first I can see how careful you were being because at first, yeah, it seems like, listen, I don't want you to leave, but gosh, I could get a 2 bedroom.
right,
But in the end, it was you were very clear. I don't want you to feel like you have to, I want you to make your decisions for you
right.
and ensure that kind of we're all okay, right? Make your decisions for you. You
Yep,
have a home here as long as you want it. But don't keep me in the dark, right? Like
right.
let's have some
Tell me
communication
what's
and
going on.
let's yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and the glorious part of that is, and she understood it immediately, is because I maybe sometimes overshare with the girls, but I talk to them. I talk to my
yeah,
kids, and we've talked about this before. I talk to them like as if they're my little business partners,
right.
and I'm looking out for you, and you're my team
Yeah,
and all of those things. But I also need to let you know what's going on so you're not surprised and like, why the fuck
exactly.
didn't you tell me this?
Exactly.
So I do share with them, and I think that that's what makes me unique to being their mom is that
Yeah,
I'm not sharing juicy details to anything
yeah,
like that, but I'm letting them know what's going on and what could be coming and what's going on. So that way they're not left in the dark, because I will tell you what, as a child in my household, I was left in the dark and
oh yeah,
lied to so much. And I just remember back to that, and I'm like, you know what? I'd rather overshare with my kids
right.
than lie to them and make them scared of things and not
Yeah,
understand why we're doing things. And they are going to be such well-rounded adults because they've been brought along on that. So I say all of that to get to phases and
yeah,
transitions and stuff, because my other daughter Jenny is the most one of the most introverted people, just super
yep,
quiet and won't smile for pictures and won't do this and won't do that and blah blah blah. But she's a very sweet kid. She's not a
yeah,
bad kid.
yeah.
She's just very shy and whatever. And there's hope, you guys, in the world. Look at my sparkling eyes right now. It's just
Woo!
the world. She was on her second round of braces. She had them when she was like 10, and then
Oh, God bless her.
she turned 13.
Oh,
So not super stoked about having braces twice, but wanted them because she wanted her teeth straight, and her teeth were
yeah,
pretty jacked.
yeah.
So naturally. So she gets her braces off, and this girl has not stopped smiling. Oh
Oh,
my God. Oh, Jan,
oh,
it is so beautiful.
that makes my heart so happy.
She has the most beautiful smile right now. And it's just, oh, straight ass teeth. Oh God. And she went to school, like,
The confidence, right? Like it's amazing.
oh my God. She's like, I like the way my face looks now. You didn't like the way your face
Oh my God, sweet girl.
looked.
My
Okay.
gosh.
And the great thing is that's been happening with the social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Benny and I have been spending a lot more time together. Like she's coming into my room and hanging out and we're talking and
Oh,
like we've been like that before, but she's like really like starting to come out of her shell a little bit and I'm loving it. So
oh my gosh, I'm
my
so
happy
happy.
news, yeah,
That's
for
amazing.
that like she's such a sweet girl and just so smart and
Yeah.
just she's brilliant, really. And to see her like come out and tell me
Start
about
to
her
own
friends.
it and
It's turning into a relationship that I have like with Chase, where we talk
yeah.
about our friends and laugh,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I think she wanted that. And so now she's kind of coming out and doing it. So it's been really cool. So,
Oh,
all of this change and transition and everything else has definitely deepened my relationships with my girls and with myself.
right. I love that. And I'm thinking about what you shared about, maybe I'm oversharing. And I think that we had similar experiences in terms of my childhood. And I do think I think that parents struggle because on one hand, you have this instinct to protect your kids from everything. And on the other hand, you know that like there's power in modeling and being clear and letting them kind of see you problem solve, right? So I think the fine line in my mind is like your intention for sharing,
Yes.
right? When your intention for sharing is to model and let them see how you're problem solving for better or for worse. Because by the way, we make mistakes fucking all the time, right?
All the time.
But then
Well, not
how
not
you
mistakes, not mistakes, choices.
we make choices that lead to things we didn't intend, whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah.
I'm okay with calling it mistakes in terms of like, okay,
I don't think we make mistakes. I think we just make the choices and then, maybe we didn't think about the choice before we made it and then the outcome is not what we wanted, but whatever. Yeah,
so I can get on board with that, right? Like we because you're right. Every single thing we do is a choice. At the end of it, it was a choice. And
right.
I think about mistakes the way I think about failure. Failure is good,
Yeah,
right? We learn so much from having to redo, right? And I think even when our kids are little, we forget that and we want to help them build the Lego set so they do it exactly right. I was literally just with teachers yesterday and we're working with their district to help them think differently about teaching and learning. And one of the things we're focusing on is what the research says about the brain and the power of discovery. When a child, even an adult, has the opportunity to discover, right? And this one kindergarten teacher was so cute and it's very reflective of parenting because she was like, it took me probably 7 or 8 years of teaching before I stopped giving kids, you're going to make this little thing for your mom or dad, and here's exactly how you're going to make it, and
right.
this has to go exactly because we want it to be perfect for them, and yet we're limiting the amount of neurons our kids are firing in their brains because we're telling them exactly what to do versus
Right.
letting them discover, right, and be
Out the
creative.
authenticity. You're taking out the authenticity
Exactly.
too. Like
Right. Right.
my
And
kid
I'm
didn't
sitting
make
in my
this.
office. Right. I'm sitting in my office where I have like for Montana Ensid, like a thing they did in preschool or kindergarten. And it's like their little handprints and the little poem and I'm imagining the teachers did exactly that. Like
Oh,
they're
they
like,
took
this
their
is
hands,
it.
put it on the paper.
Exactly. Exactly. Anyway, from a parenting perspective, right? We're so scared of what failure could do to them because we forget that failure actually helps them grow and
Oh,
learn. And so
right.
with the sharing piece in my mind, it's like as long as the sharing isn't about the parent being like, poor me, look at all I'm going through, look at which we both experienced too as kids.
Totally. Totally.
Um, if the sharing is, okay, look, here's the deal. This hard thing is happening, right? And I've got some hard choices to make. And if you have opinions, let me hear them. I'm happy to hear them, right? But, I've got some hard decisions to make. The thing I regret, I've said this before on this podcast, is I wish I had been more open with my kids about money, right? Because I feel like we never talked about money. And now, of course, I look at it and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much to learn for your kids, even when money is tight, right? To learn that that it can be okay for money to be tight. And we're going to make a series of choices and we might have to give up some things. That's okay, right? That's not a bad thing. And I think a lot of us do that as parents. And I think that that's contributes to kids feeling like not understanding the value of money, not understanding the connection of money and how you use your time and all the things. So anyway, I applaud the sharing, and I would suggest if for me, it's only oversharing if
It's
your intent
inappropriate.
is if it's ill-intended,
Yeah, and
right?
it's
If
or it's
it's not
inappropriate.
ill-intended, it would never be inappropriate. In my
Right.
mind,
Exactly.
if it's inappropriate, it's because it's ill-intended. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
So as long as it's not ill-intended, I think, you know what? Like let them, and of course you've got to be think about development, right? Like you can't tell a 6-year-old about all the blahs and they don't even know what the hell you're talking about, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
but our kids are, in their teens and adults now. And so, yeah, it's a very different world. But I'm so excited to hear that, on both fronts. And I love that you are stepping back right now in the midst of the crazy and acknowledging I'm going to call them wins, right? Acknowledging the really great things. Because that's the stuff you're going to carry forward, right? No matter what happens next. Yeah, I love
Exactly.
that. I love
Exactly.
it. So the other thing that I wanted to bring up in terms of like over the last couple of weeks, like something I've grabbed onto, one of the podcasts that I love to listen to is Armchair Expert. Shout out to Dax and Monica. We don't hate you because you haven't selected us for your Armchair Anonymous
Yeah,
episode
get on
yet.
it.
We do feel like that we would be a great story. You did
We're
your
beautiful.
I'm going to speak to them as if they're listening right now, by the way. We did your submissions for the DNA stories. I listened to your episode recently. It was good, don't get me wrong, but I feel like
Ours is better.
our story would have beat two of those stories. Two of them we couldn't have beat. The one I told you about where the girl discovered, like, always suspected that she wasn't, that there was a parental lineage issue. Long story short, she's a twin, and she did not only did she discover there was a like dad was a different guy, but she discovered that she and her fraternal twin had different fathers.
Love
So I
it.
was like, okay, yes, that would have beat our story. Okay, yeah, I
Yeah.
got you. I got you. But anyway, so they were talking in an episode at the kind of informal part of one of their episodes, and they were talking about addiction and a bunch of different stuff, which was kind of the basis of their starting this podcast, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dax
Because, yeah,
Steve
Dax
did a
is,
podcast where
yeah.
people could experience what the candor and vulnerability of an AA meeting without going to AA, basically. Anyway, so Monica was talking about a piece of kind of advice or whatever that she had heard, and it kind of has to do with addiction, but it really is about, I translated it in my brain to habits. When you're trying to break a habit, and certainly it can full circle come back to the social media piece, when you're trying to break a habit, right? And it's a mantra, and that you have to kind of carry around in your head. And so in my case, I'm going to apply it to my social media example and say, that it takes a while to break the muscle memory of just picking up your phone to look, to pick up your phone to scroll. And so the mantra basically is like, as you go to do that thing you're trying to stop or lessen, right? That you say to yourself, I used to do that. And you honor that and acknowledge, like, yep, I used to do that. I'm not doing that anymore. Right in this moment, I can put my phone back down because I'm not doing that anymore. And the last part of it is never again. Well, in
Mhm.
my case with this particular habit, I'm not saying never again, but definitely
Right.
not right now. So I can stop at, I used to do that. I'm not doing that right now. I'm not doing that anymore. Right. And then go from there. But that whole like, I used to, I don't do that anymore, never again. I was like, holy shit, like what a mantra to
Yeah.
help you, especially when you're trying to really truly eliminate things that are harmful for you,
Right.
right? I just thought that was so
And
powerful.
or distract you from what you're doing, or whatever.
Yes,
It
just
doesn't
impede
necessarily
you
have to
in
be
some
like a
way.
bad thing.
You're
Like,
right.
we were chatting about this before we hit record, and I said one of my favorite mantras, because of my ADHD, and we're notorious for either not putting stuff away and just
Yeah.
leaving it out
Yep.
wherever, or starting three different the other day I had to laugh at myself. Like, I literally laughed at myself. I walked through the house, I had cupboard doors open over here, I had a pile of stuff over here, like through the house I had all of, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, like in the middle, and I had a cup of coffee that got cold sitting on the counter because I made myself a cup of coffee, and like I was so all over the place. I'm like, this ADHD shit's getting out of control, right?
Oh my God, that's
I
hilarious.
saw something, and because honestly, I have never been this bad. Like, I think it's as I'm getting older, it's just like, bitch, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm
right, because
here, bitch.
all
I'm
the other
here.
shit that happens in your brain as you get
Yeah.
older, it's all like, yeah,
Oh, it's like it's all of the stereotypical ADHD stuff I'm doing now, right? I never used to do it before. I never
yeah,
used to forget where I put something, right?
right, right.
Holy shit, you guys, like, it's out of control. So I saw this mantra online and I was like, I'm doing that. And it's, don't put it down, put it away. And
Mm,
that has like been so good for me, especially when I'm cooking and stuff like that. Like, it's all over the place, like it looks like a mad scientist, but
yes.
it's out amazing. Um, but then I'm like, oh, I gotta put all this stuff away, and I'm like, why didn't I put it away as I'm doing it in? And it makes such a huge difference. It makes such a huge difference.
I
But
love that. Don't put it down, put it away.
right,
I'm fucking gonna be saying that to the people in my life. I'm just saying, don't put
right,
it
don't.
down.
Oh,
But you know,
I
now that
kind
you
of,
say that, without it being my mantra, I can absolutely tell you that's at the core of how I'm so organized.
I know.
Because my whole thing is my translation of that has always been touch it as few times as possible.
Ah, there you go. Okay.
Right. So if I'm trying to get organized, I like my thing is always touch it. So that's why like I don't just leave the laundry blank. I take the laundry up because I'm like, if I leave it here, I'm gonna have to touch it again.
Yep. Yep.
Right. I'm gonna touch it again and
Exactly.
again. That's just one example. But touch it as few times as possible is mine and it ties right into that. I love that. Don't put it down, put it away.
Well,
Amen.
and it's funny because I used to be so good at that. Like this has never really been a problem for me.
Yeah.
When I saw that video, but oh shoot, there was something else I was going to say and now I lost track of it. But anyways, no, it's never been a problem for me. And
Yeah.
so now that now that I'm figuring these things out, but then
Yeah.
also I've put together things for myself and oh, this is the story I was going to tell. I'll sign us off with this story
Okay,
because
let's hear it.
so I've always been very particular about how things are organized, mainly so I can find them.
Okay.
Because if it's not back in the place, because one of my big things is like don't borrow something from me and not put it back exactly where it was. Because I
Amen.
know exactly where it is, and if I can't find it, is when I lose my shit. Like
Yep.
that's my self proclaimed I lose my shit moment is when something isn't where it's supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to do that. Like that's a trigger for me, and I'm like, I don't know why. So I was dating this
Because
person.
it's a control thing and because it ties into the other. Like, okay,
I need to
yeah.
know where it's at. I don't want to
Yep.
look for it because I'm going to go
Exactly.
crazy, right? So I know where everything's at. So I was dating somebody, and they were at my house, and they did me a favor. They like I was doing a bunch of stuff, and they cleaned my bathroom for me or something like that. I was like, oh, nice, whatever. I come home, we're standing there. I take out my earrings and I put them on the counter, and this person looked up at me and goes, "That's not where those go."
Let me get this straight. Your house,
My house,
yeah. Okay, go
my
ahead.
bathroom.
But
I'm
he had
looking
cleaned
right
the
at his
bathroom, so now evidently he owned it all. Or this person.
right,
I shouldn't even
right.
say he, but yes, they
They,
owned it all.
whatever.
Go ahead.
It doesn't even matter. But yeah, and they're like, "That's not where that belongs." And I looked at them and I said, "You can leave now." Don't tell me where to put shit in my own house. That's how
We're
bad
done
I
here.
used to be. That's how bad I used to be. Now I'm like losing shit everywhere, so it doesn't matter. But that's how bad I used to be and now I realize it was a control thing to help keep me in line because I didn't
Yes.
realize I'm all ADHD out. So like,
Yes.
so it's funny how like now I'm realizing all these little tricks and tips that I put into my life.
To control it without even realizing you were controlling it.
Right, right, right. It's so funny. So yeah, so now I'm laughing at myself because I'm like, you're an idiot. And now you're just really an idiot everywhere. So
Oh my
I love
God,
it
that
and it's
is
fun and I love laughing at myself, you guys.
we have to be able to do it, right? But and I do think that that's partly like, of course, when you come from what we came from, you have control issues.
Oh
Everybody,
my God. And
everybody
abandonment
does.
issues and everything else,
Exactly. Of course,
codependency,
we
all
have
these
them,
things.
right? But yeah, I think it's awesome when we can step back and like catch ourselves doing something and realize, okay, this is actually ridiculous. Like I'm
Oh,
doing it to myself.
yeah,
Nobody's
I
doing
was,
this to me. I'm doing it to myself.
I was like, I made this house look like somebody robbed it. Like, what is going on? Drawers. There were drawers open, cabinets open, boxes. I'm like, what is going on here? Oh, it's me. Oh, sorry.
Your kids come home and they're like, Mom, what happened? We got robbed. Like
We
I'm
got
like,
robbed. Robbed. It was crazy.
who would
Oh,
do this? Who?
at least I can laugh at myself because this shit's
I love
crazy.
it. You guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of our kind of update check-ins. Again, it's always our hope that like just by sharing a look behind the curtain of our lives, that some of those things resonate with you and they're things that you can grab onto and be a support to you as you navigate the week ahead of you. And the last thing I'll say is, Jane and I we've been, speaking of oversharing, we've been very transparent about this podcast journey for us and how much it means to us. And, and yet it's a hard lift for us to like find the time and make it happen and do all the things. And one of the things that we're regrouping around is that we might stop trying to do all the things and we might really focus on just showing up on YouTube, because
Yeah.
YouTube is a place that we both find safe from the perspective of we don't get caught up in other stuff, right? We don't get
Right.
caught up in scrolling on YouTube the way we do on some of these other platforms. And right now we're in a position where we want to be able to post and let it speak for itself versus being faced with an algorithm that forces you like, okay, nobody's going to see your shit unless you also engage with everybody else's and all the things. So YouTube is a place where we're going to, as we get new episodes, that's where we're going to drop our short videos. That's where we're going to do those things. Maybe in our stories we'll say, hey, go look at YouTube because we just did it, dropped an episode. But all that to say, like, if you are following along, make sure you follow, subscribe, do the things so that your platforms that you use will prompt you when our new episodes come out, because we're probably
Yeah.
not going to be posting them on some of those other social platforms. We're going to pour all of our energy into one place because we can't do all the things. And
Yeah.
so we're going to try that for, I don't know, a period of time, see how it goes, reevaluate, take it from there. But yeah, what would you add, sis?
Yeah, and that same thing. And I would just say, please go over to YouTube, subscribe, and like our
Yeah, our
Dance
channel.
with Abby with Janice and Jane.
Yep.
I'm actually going to start a YouTube page. I'm going to start doing some little shorts and stuff like that, just little
Love it.
things. I've been wanting to do that on social media, but
Yeah.
just because of the hubbub and everything, I want it to be like super focused.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so we're gonna try that and try to get some more listeners and subscribers and do some extra stuff for you guys, because that's our goal. So
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
So thank you as always for being a part of our community. Like, share, subscribe, all the things. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Peace out, everybody.
Bye.